Welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today with an experience I guarantee you have had, probably in the last 24 hours.
Oh, okay. I'm intrigued.
You're in a meeting, maybe just scrolling through your phone, and then suddenly something happens in your body.
Not in your mind, in your body.
Exactly. It's a sudden pre-verbal physical surge,
Yeah.
a warmth, a tremor, maybe a tightening in your gut.
Hmm.
It's that impulse to speak a deeply felt truth or just leave the room or even just to let out a gasp of frustration. But before that can even register as a thought, your mind just slams the door shut.
That internal editor we all have.
Yes. And it says, not rational, stay small, that is not safe. And poof, it's gone.
Well, it vanishes from consciousness, yes. But if we actually trace the energy of that moment, we have to ask the big question. Where did that physical momentum go?
Right, it had to go somewhere.
Because the human organism, it's not a closed system.
Yeah.
That surge was the organism's own intelligence speaking. It's a raw, pure impulse of being.
But we're trained to see that as, what, noise,
Yeah.
chaos.
Yeah.
We live in a culture that has been so carefully trained to equate control with maturity, with rationality. We mistake the silencing of these physical signals for strength. But what we're really doing is fighting our own operating system.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We want to get into the Gestalt, understanding of perception, and ask you, the listener, what if these impulses aren't chaos at all?
What if they're unfinished figures?
Yes, Gestalt's just trying to complete themselves within your awareness, and maybe the effort it takes to block them is the real source of your fatigue.
To really get this, we have to start with how you perceive reality itself. Gestalt psychology tells us that perception is not passive. It's not like a camera just recording a scene.
It's an active process.
It's an extremely active, moment-to-moment process of what we call figure formation. In any given moment, your awareness is organizing this vast field of experience, all the sights, sounds, memories, physical feelings, into a foreground and a background.
Okay, so the foreground is the figure.
That's the clear, defined thing you're paying attention to. And everything else, all the stuff outside that sharp focus, that's the ground.
So that intuitive impulse, that physical signal we feel, it's trying to become the figure.
It's a proto-figure, exactly. It's information bubbling up from the deepest part of you, trying to define itself against the huge, complex ground of your existence. It's shaped by your unmet needs, your history, your desires.
It's a bid for relevance then. But if it's just information, why do we have this almost knee-jerk refusal to let it form? Why are we so terrified of letting a genuine impulse like, I need to cry right now, become a clear, undeniable figure?
Because it threatens the narrative.
The curated story of who we think we are.
It absolutely does. And that refusal to allow for that necessary disruption, that's where all the trouble starts. When the impulse is pushed back, it doesn't just disappear into thin air.
It becomes
It's an unfinished situation. It's a perceptual gap, a gestalt that cannot close.
Think of it like a browser tab you can't close.
That's a perfect analogy. It hangs in the background, just eating up your processing power, and it distorts the entire perceptual field around it.
Which would explain that chronic, vague restlessness.
That, or difficulty concentrating, or that exhausting feeling that you're constantly fighting your own inertia. The life energy that was meant to be used for action is now tied up, just maintaining the suppression.
Okay, that makes perfect sense conceptually, this idea of an internal drag. But let's get practical. How does a simple feeling, like wanting to speak up, become something that physically depletes us? Let's use some real examples.
Let's do it.
Take that partner dynamic. A person feels a genuine, raw urge at dinner to say, I feel disconnected. I don't feel seen. There's maybe a little tremor in their throat, a rush of anxiety.
The body is mobilizing.
But the mind jumps in. He's exhausted. I'm overreacting. I'll just sound needy. And the impulse is strangled right there.
And this is key. The person successfully avoids the short-term discomfort of that potential confrontation. They change the subject. But the unspoken sentence, that energy of contact that mobilized and was blocked, it doesn't just dissipate.
It sinks back into the ground.
It sinks back, but now it's a heavy ground. It lingers as this background tension, and it makes every single interaction after that just a little more labored.
And over time, the buildup of these unexpressed moments.
The sheer accumulation creates palpable distance, a relational fog. The person might eventually think, I'm falling out of love, when the actual problem is the density and weight of all the unmade contact they are carrying around.
That reframes the entire idea of distance. It's not a lack of feeling, it's a pileup of avoidance. And we see this everywhere, right? Like the empathy impulse.
Yes.
You walk past someone who's clearly struggling, you feel that quick, visceral pull, that body signal to pause, to connect, to offer something.
But immediately the rationale kicks in.
I'm late, they'll just spend it on something else. It's a systemic problem, not mine. And that natural movement toward connection is just interrupted in milliseconds.
That is what we call perceptual truncation. The organism had begun to form a figure of connection, and we just severed it. So the man walks on, and his internal field is subtly but definitively altered.
He might feel a little guilty, maybe.
Or a faint, unplaceable shame. Or he might just avoid that street for a few weeks without knowing why. His awareness has narrowed because he had to use energy to block that initial natural impulse.
And you're saying this isn't really a moral failure?
Not primarily, they're failures of perception, of organization. When that spontaneous impulse toward contact is aborted, the field gets congested, it gets thick. And awareness is forced into a tighter, smaller focus.
So this totally flips our idea of freedom. We think freedom is controlling our emotions, controlling our reactions.
But if this is right, then true freedom is something radically different. It's not the absence of impulse, it's the capacity to allow the impulse to fully arise.
Just feel it.
To feel its precise texture, its heat, its vibration, its truth, without immediately needing to act on it or suppress it. An impulse that is fully felt, even if you decide not to enact it, completes its natural arc.
And then it can integrate.
It becomes conscious, it informs you, and it integrates back into the ground smoothly. It doesn't become a trapped pocket of energy.
That clarifies so much. But okay, let's zoom in on why, even when we try to feel these things, they often just fragment and disappear. Why is the impulse so fragile?
Because for a figure to form cleanly, the internal field has to provide three things. Salience, so the energy of the impulse itself. Safety, which is permission to emerge without being crushed by criticism. And support.
So if the field is full of, say, internalized criticism, that voice saying, you shouldn't feel that.
The impulse fragments. That's what we call structural disorganization. The energy is there, but it can't cohere into a useful figure because the internal environment is just too hostile.
This applies so powerfully to anything creative. You know, the writer, the composer, they feel that initial spark, that raw electric phrase. The energy is real. This is it.
Yes.
But then the judgment rushes in. The performance anxiety, the fear of what people will think.
The field resists?
It resists, and the impulse just dissolves. The writer is left staring at a blank page, but that field isn't neutral anymore. It's now charged with absence.
I love that phrase. It's like a phantom limb in the creative process. Its energy is still present, and it's actively distorting everything else the writer tries to do.
They're trying to write around it.
And it leads to this disconnected, hollow piece because the organizing principle, the core truth, is missing. This whole cycle connects directly to the natural rhythm of the organism, the cycle of contact.
Which is?
Every impulse should move through a natural arc: emergence, mobilization, action, withdrawal, integration. When we interrupt that cycle, especially at mobilization, that surge of energy just before action, the energy becomes bound.
It gets stuck in a loop.
An endless loop in the background. And that feeling of being chronically stuck, which so many of us feel, it isn't a motivational problem. It's a sheer weight of hundreds of these little bound energies running constantly and overwhelming the system.
Yeah.
And this brings us to one of the most powerful Gestalt principles, isomorphism. Simply put, the structure of your internal psychological process mirrors the structure of your experienced reality.
They reflect each other.
They are mutually reflective. If your internal field is fragmented from aborting impulses all the time, your perception of the world becomes fragmented. You start seeing the world as disjointed, unpredictable, maybe even hostile.
You confuse rigidity for stability.
You got it. The internal mess looks like external chaos.
That's a staggering implication.
Yeah.
The chaos we perceive out there is a direct reflection of the uncompleted gestalts in here. So the payoff for allowing a gestalt to complete is profound, because when a gestalt closes, the entire field actually reorganizes itself.
It has to.
Let's go back to that man who always freezes in conflict. He swallows his anger for years. He's proud of his calmness, but he's chronically tense, and he sees his environment as aggressive.
He's living in that fragmented field.
But what if he allows the full force of that anger
Yeah.
to surface in his awareness? I mean, not yelling, just feeling the tremor and the heat of it.
Something shifts.
The anger, when it's truly witnessed, it softens, and it reveals its core need, a deep longing to be respected, to be protected. That realization isn't just a clever psychological idea.
No, it's a felt experience, a profound felt experience that perceptually realigns his whole field. Suddenly, the people around him don't seem quite so unpredictable because he is no longer defined by his own defense mechanism.
That is insight. It's not an idea, it's structural.
And this leads us to the highest form of liberation. True freedom is not about unleashing the impulse, not about acting randomly. It is the absolute refusal to flee from it.
To perceive it so fully.
So fully that it ceases to be unconscious. If we define the unconscious as this dynamic, ongoing process of avoidance, then awareness is simply the moment you stop avoiding what is already present.
Which is the paradox of presence, right? The classic cliff edge analogy. You stand at a great height and feel that strange pull. What if I jump?
The organism is not issuing a suicidal command there. The impulse is trying to feel the totality of being alive right at the boundary of existence.
And by letting that terrifying impulse fully occupy your awareness, not running from it, not acting on it, just feeling the dizzying reality of it, the compulsion just dissipates.
The anxiety about the impulse evaporates because it has finally been seen. The more fully you inhabit the truth of an impulse, the less power it has to control you.
I think we often fear the impulse itself, but you're saying what we really fear is something else.
We fear the emptiness that follows a fully felt surge, because when that intense impulse is fully seen, it reveals its deeper truth. It was always about contact itself, not the specific object of your desire.
So the rage at your colleague's mistake
Was actually a longing to be seen, a demand for respect that was trying to make itself figure. The impulse fulfilled its purpose simply by bringing you into contact with your own core need. It reorganized the field.
And that leads to the cost of all this avoidance.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the shadow field.
Yes.
Your current reality is so profoundly shaped by the near misses. The words you almost spoke, the career you almost chased, the apology you almost gave.
The truths you almost named.
All of these create a shadow field, a kind of parallel reality made up entirely of the gestalts that never closed. We're not just haunted by memories. We are haunted by possibilities we refuse to feel.
We are living out the consequences of the things we refuse to feel. It forces us to redefine the self. The self isn't a static noun, a fixed thing. It's a verb. It's a process of ongoing figure formation.
So liberation isn't about finding a better self.
It's about allowing the current process, the current verb, to finally complete itself. We don't need to unlock potential. We just need to stop blocking the potential that is already surging within us right now.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's the ultimate act of surrender, but it leads to aliveness, not passivity.
So we want to offer you this one practice. It's simple, but it is challenging. The next time an intuitive impulse arises, that flicker of desire, that surge of resistance, do not act and do not suppress.
Just let it be there.
Just let it occupy the center of your awareness, feel its shape, trace its edges, and ask it gently, what are you trying to complete in my life right now?
And in that moment of attentive surrender, the impulse reveals itself not as a threat or a demand, but as a gift of contact bringing you into wholeness. This path doesn't promise peace.
Not at all.
It promises aliveness, which is electric, sometimes painful and unpredictable, but always real.
And here is the final provocative thought for you to carry with you. The resistance you might be feeling to this very idea, that skeptical little voice whispering, but what if I can't handle the intensity of that feeling? That voice is itself an impulse.
Don't fight it.
Don't fight it. Don't analyze it. Just let it tremble there in the light of your attention. Because liberation is found in the silence where the field reorganizes itself. You were already free. You just forgot to look.